discussion video, actually inspired by one of you. And the question was how to deal with criticism and also how to deal with other people's opinion, or more concretely, how to not be influenced and affected by other people's opinion. So maybe the question goes to you and you can give the first answer.
Well, I mean, I think that is a very difficult thing because obviously we care in different grades about the opinion of different people. At least I can speak from my experience that depending on whose opinion it is, I might actually not care and it would be quite easy for me not to care, or I might be super heavily influenced and let it really go to my head and my heart and be insulted, or of course if it's a positive thing, feel incredibly validated and uplifted. So the first thing is the source of the criticism or the compliment. The next thing that sort of comes to mind when thinking about how to deal with the opinion of other people is that it depends on what is criticized. If something is criticized that I feel 100% secure in, if, for example, something is criticized about me thinking that voting extremist parties is wrong, and someone says you're an idiot, it wouldn't influence me for a second because I feel very secure in my opinion to not vote for extremist parties. However, if the criticism is about something that I myself am a bit insecure about, or maybe I'm not 100% have arrived at a definite conclusion in terms of my opinion, then of course things start to crumble a lot easier. And a combination of someone who's very important to me criticizing something about myself that I already feel insecure about might be a bit problematic.
But I mean, you say that you react differently to people that are important to you. Maybe the question is, do you think other people's opinion should affect us? For example, if it is a person that is important to you, and let's say if I, for example, criticize something about you, is that something that you think should be ignored or that actually should be taken into consideration?
Well, even I would say within the people that are important to me, there are gradations, right? There are the people that I feel care for me and love me and have my best interest at heart. You, my really good friends, family. And if those people criticize me for something, it's definitely going to give me pause, because you have no reason to criticize me other than if you truly believe that I have headed off in the wrong direction or something like that. So even if I don't agree with it, I'm definitely going to think about it a lot more than if a stranger criticized me for it, because I don't necessarily am convinced immediately that that person has my best interest in mind. Now, the second category of people within the people that are important to me are people that I admire, people that maybe don't have a close relationship to me that, you know, I love and they love me, but people that simply I respect, I look up to, and maybe whose expertise I look up to. And if within their expertise they criticize me on something, again, because of that, it's going to impact me a lot more than if a stranger criticizes me on it.
But I think there's an important difference, because if an expert criticizes you out of their expertise, then it usually is constructive criticism. And I think constructive criticism is very different from, you know, criticism that comes from, I don't know, anger or jealousy or fear or whatever. So I think if it's constructive criticism, you're absolutely right. It can really affect us because we know, okay, it's actually even true. But I think this is something for me that I always try to react very differently to, as opposed to, for me, one of the best examples is, you know, after a concert, some random person from the audience comes up to you and tells you, like, gives you a tip or something completely outrageous actually, and you realize that they probably don't even play an instrument, and I'm just like, okay, you know, this is in a different category from, let's say, my teacher telling me something.
Absolutely.
And for me, both criticism and also praise in those categories are the same. I think that constructive criticism and same praise from people with that expertise is something to be taken seriously, whereas criticism from people that don't really know what they're talking about, or especially criticism that comes from a place of jealousy or stuff like that, and also praise that comes from a place where people don't know what they're talking about, should not be taken that seriously. Also in our situation with after concerts, I mean, it's really wonderful when people say how much they liked it and how great we were, but if I myself know I made this and that mistake, or that specific thing didn't go well, and someone from the audience tells me, I really love that specific thing, I say thank you, but I know, okay, I'm not gonna let that praise go to my head because I made that mistake. I know I made that mistake.
Another thought that just spontaneously comes to mind with this word criticism is the flip side of it, because right now we're talking more about how to not let criticism influence you in a dysfunctional way. However, there's also the other side where I feel that there is a bit of a culture, because of this really radical and relentless criticism and hate comment culture and stuff that exists, to develop this attitude of, I don't care about what anyone has to say about me. I'm just gonna do me. I'm gonna live my truth, and everything else, I don't even care about it. You either love me the way I am or goodbye. Which I find is also a very dangerous attitude to have, because there is a difference between people trying to criticize you for your own good in a way, to help you improve on something, and people just trying to tear you down. And if any criticism is put into that category of he or she's just trying to tear me down, then we don't leave any room for actual personal growth. And I think that this consequence of this hate culture that exists, that has put criticism in such a negative light, also in terms of criticism often equals insulting, where it's like, ooh, I have to get into my safe zone and don't insult me. I think that that is also a dangerous thing, because no matter what criticism it is, even if it is the most idiotic thing, I think that even reading it or listening to it and being able to say, sorry, that's idiotic, I'm not going to let it impact me, makes you stronger than just dismissing any criticism as, you know, a bad will to start.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you say, and I think hearing that, I feel that there maybe are kind of two phases, and not just with criticism, with other people's reactions to you, basically. And the first phase is listening to it and kind of processing it and giving it a chance, basically. Like asking yourself, okay, could that be true? What is it exactly? Thinking about it. And then once you've done that and come to your conclusion, the second phase is acting in a way that is healthy for you. So if it is, as we said, hate, criticism, obviously setting it aside immediately and saying, okay, this is nothing that affects me. If it is constructive, taking it seriously. So kind of those two phases. And I'm trying to think right now, because we as musicians obviously live kind of the opinion of other people, I mean of the audience, but not just that, we get reviews by critics, there are competitions with juries, there are exams, all of that, and everything is based on how good we are or how much people like us. With reviews, for example, I mean, I've gotten good reviews, I've gotten bad reviews, and first of all, to be honest, I'm always affected by it. I've never gotten a review and been like, don't care at all. It always affects me, but I read it, and then if it's a rave review, of course I'm happy, and I read it and I think about it for myself, like, okay, what do I actually agree with? And then I set it aside. And if it's a bad review also, I read it, I try to think, okay, is there some truth to that? And sometimes there might be, or is it really something I really don't agree with? And then again, I don't let it affect me. And one of our teachers actually once said to me, I don't know, maybe to you as well, something very interesting, because he asked me, how did the concert go? And I said, yeah, it was really good. The audience really loved it. And he said to me, well, that's not important. Like that doesn't say anything. He said, if the audience loved it, don't take it seriously. If the audience hated it, don't take it seriously. Basically, don't take any reaction of the audience seriously, because it's about how you felt. You know how it was. And it's dangerous a little bit the way I'm saying it in this absolute way, because of course the reaction of the audience is important to us, but just in the way that it influences us, and if it makes us happy or sad, it shouldn't be that makes us happy.
And the other thing that I often find myself thinking is that whenever someone gives me criticism and it does impact me in a more of a way than I'd like to, I often give myself a hard time for caring that much, and I'm sometimes like wondering, I wish I wasn't that, addicted to other people's approval. I wish I didn't care about these things. And I think that many people, and I include myself, are very much depending on other people's approval to sort of increase their own feeling of self-worth. And I don't think that that is the rarity amongst people. I think that's the norm.
Yeah,
and
especially
I think that
amongst artists.
And I think that people who pretend they're not at all depending on other people's opinion are lying to themselves. I'm sure that there are gradations to it. I'm sure there is a spectrum, but maybe some people only care about what their parents think of them or what their children, like the really close people think of them, and then there are others who really care about every person's opinion. I'm sure that there are gradations to it, but I think it shouldn't be a goal of yours to live a life where you just don't care about any person's opinion. Because I found myself wishing for that at some points where I felt very sensitive or attacked.
But I think it's the same as wishing for, never being nervous before you go on stage.
Exactly.
It's something that we think would be paradise, but it just doesn't exist. It actually wouldn't be paradise because that special thing would be missing.
Exactly.
So, as you say, I think it's important to always, in the first phase, give the other opinion a chance and consider where it's coming from and what the intention is, and then of course decide how seriously you want to take it, but definitely not just be on your high horse and not care about anything.
I think the important is to have as much clarity of mind in these situations as possible. When an opinion comes your way, whether it impacts you a lot, a little, to be really able to distinguish which thoughts are coming from an emotionally loaded place, which thoughts are coming from a rationally controlled place, and to be able to really, in a way, dissect your reaction to it. That especially pertains to when you feel that something has impacted you and has really pulled you down. I found that in that moment, really analyzing, okay, why has that pulled me down? Was it the person that gave me that criticism? Was it the topic that they criticized? Was it because I feel they're right and maybe I am being ignorant about a part of myself that I want to improve? To really analyze for myself why it impacted me. And then maybe also if I end up thinking, well, it is for irrational reasons, to be able to then say, okay, I've analyzed this is not something that should impact me that way, sleep on it, hopefully tomorrow it's not gonna impact me so strongly anymore. Which of course is a very difficult thing. I mean, I've barely ever managed to really set that type of impact aside. It's a thing I have to work on constantly, to have to sort of regulate how important it is to me to get approval from other people.
But I think when you're mentioning the kind of criticism that really gets you down, I'm a pretty strong believer in, I think we were discussing this actually the other day, in that the way that you react to something that somebody did to you or said to you has less to do with what that person said or how they said it and who that person is, and more to do with what you feel about that specific topic. Because I think the reason why something really affects you is because it is something that is going through your mind anyway. So if I attack something within somebody that is already such a vulnerable place, that's going to get them down because it has to do with themselves. If they somehow find a way to be in balance concerning that place, I think it's not going to get them down. Just as you said, if someone attacks, why shouldn't you vote for extremist parties, that's not going to get you down because you feel totally secure about it. And then the other thing I feel strongly about is the way that people act and the way that people treat others says more about themselves than about the others that they're treating that way. So if someone actually comes at me with total hate and really inappropriate stuff, I really have learned to understand, okay, this has nothing to do with me. This has everything to do with them because they have their own problems for acting that way when it's totally obvious and irrational. And I think those two things, like the attitude people have towards others says more about them, and the way you react to things says more about you. Those two things really help me, at least, in handling these kind of situations.
The important thing is that we shouldn't be too tough on ourselves if we feel this sudden feeling of pause and insecurity, because that is very, very normal and it doesn't show weakness. On the contrary, I think it shows the strength to be able to deal with these uncomfortable emotions, which already, in my opinion, makes you deal with it better than someone who would just off the cuff dismiss it as something that's not valuable anyway. I think for me, the key word in all of this is, I would say, balance. Balance in the way you receive criticism and in the way you calibrate how much you care about certain things, and always filter it through reflection and understanding. But something really important that I just want to say in the end is, probably anyone watching this video will notice that our opinions are very fluent about this, because I think this is a topic that you've never learned about until the end. I think it's something that you practice really your entire life, dealing with other people's opinions. All we could do right now is sort of give you all these different thoughts that came up for that topic, but I think you're a fool if you think that you have sort of dealt with that for a lifetime. I think this is always a recurring theme, and it should be. And it's good that it is a recurring theme.
And it is closely connected to trust in yourself. Self-trust, basically. Because the way you handle criticism is, it depends on how much you trust your own opinion and your own self-worth. So, and this is also something that never ends.
Exactly.
So we hope that you enjoyed this video, and we would love to hear your thoughts and comments. And we'll see you again in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.